I remember when I used to play back home in the neighborhood, it was always games like that. You know, I remember one time it was one of my friends, you know, he was playing basketball. They was winning the game. It was so competitive. They broke a piece of leg from a table, and they threw it. It went right through his heart, and he died right on the court. So, like, I'm accustomed to playing basketball really rough. You know what I mean? And I came into the league. That's how I was accustomed to playing. I'm used to fighting on the court, and that's how I grew up playing basketball.
That was Metta World Peace when he was with the Houston Rockets in 2009, when he was ejected for some stuff that was going on between he and Kobe Bryant. Now, obviously, the humongous thing that sticks out to anybody that's watching this is that he witnessed somebody get murdered. Now, we had to dig and dig and dig to see not only, and we're not saying that it wasn't true, but as members of the media, we seek out the truth and we need that sort of validation.
Good members of the media do that.
Like us. So here's what we did, okay? As a cohesive duo, we started researching when did this happen? Why did it happen? Who is the friend? Does the time add up? So let's start from the very beginning. He is from the Queensbridge neighborhood of New York, excuse me, which is where Nasty Nas is from, along with many others. So a rough area, as we certainly do know. And he tells many stories about Queensbridge. He went on the record to AOL via ESPN saying, my cousins were cutting up the crack and everything, and the police started knocking on the door. I was about to flush the drugs in the toilet, and my cousin was like, don't flush the drugs, that's a lot of money. I could have made a decision. My older brother, he did 10 years. He did 10 years for drugs, 10 years flat, federal prison. On top of this, he went on the Dan Le Batard show and doubled down on that first quote. Take a look.
Coming up next on my son's TV show, we talk to Metta World Peace.
I was never like rebellious, but I was always interested in different things. You know, I learned how to cook crack at the age of 13. So that was something I'm not proud of, obviously, but it was just something that was introduced to me at an early age.
He learned to cook crack at the age of 13. That was his surroundings. Now, before we went on, I didn't know this, but Denise Jones actually worked with none other than Metta World Peace, AKA Ron Artest, AKA Panda's friend, NBA champion, great defensive player, and from rough upbringings. Is it safe to say that he thinks of the world a little bit differently?
Yes.
In a positive way, of course.
In a positive way, absolutely. It's interesting because he's exactly who he is, both in front of a camera and off a camera.
That's awesome.
The guy's very genuine, very authentic. He always has people around him, and it could be someone he just met that gave him good energy, or someone that's like a lifelong friend that he's just known for a lot of years. So I was able to be a head producer for his radio show when he was at Power 106. And what was interesting about it is Power 106 is a local radio station, right?
Yes, in LA.
In LA. And he was able to use his following and get people to call in from like Louisiana and like Miami. Like it was the randomest shows like from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Really?
It was from 12 a.m. and he would come in and record it live from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Not too much show prep. He did everything like off the top.
Cuff.
And yeah, he had like his barber with him. He got him a mic. He had one of his artists because he does music management. So he had one of his young artists in there. But it was just great because the guy's just always just trying to feed everyone.
And he's just, what I think was really important was he doesn't change.
No.
In front of the camera, behind the camera,
Authentic.
Same dude. And also what I think is important is that he came from such a tough place, as I'm about to show you, is that he is still this incredibly positive, loving person that he is today. So the St. Louis Dispatch had a write-up on young, then Ron Artest. His mother, Sarah, is a prototypical matriarch who has lived in Queensbridge for more than 20 years. This was in 1999, by the way. Raising her 7 kids, ages 2.5 to 26.
Jeez.
Their kids and a niece or nephew here and there. 17 people shared Sarah Artest's 5-bedroom apartment by the time Ron was ready for high school. Billy Madison reference. After he began commuting to LaSalle Academy in Manhattan, trying to keep his grades up and his basketball skills sharp enough for college recruiters to take notice, his mother decided he should have his own room. He was 15 years old when he had his first room to himself. He grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queensbridge. that the Indianapolis Star wrote had 12 or 13 people. He says as many as 17 people lived there at one time, most of them finding space on the floor to sleep. And here is where it gets a little tough. In mid-1995, or at least tougher, was hard for him to handle. That summer, his mother delivered a little girl in her bedroom in the crowded apartment in Queensbridge. So abrupt was Quenisha's arrival that Ron's brother, Isaiah, then 11, cut the umbilical cord. Ron doted on his little sister. 10 weeks later, she died unexpectedly in her crib. Ron took the baby's death extremely hard, refusing to enter his mother's bedroom where a photograph of Quenisha was prominently displayed. When he went to view her tiny coffin at the funeral home, his knees wobbled and family members had to catch hold of him to prevent him from crumpling to the floor. His name is tattooed on one of his biceps. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. So the guy who has been viewed as, in the NBA at least, violent, rebellious. We had a story about Rajon Rondo being completely misunderstood. What I'm hoping to do with a lot of these pieces, by the way, and this is just some inside baseball to my psyche, is fill some of the holes that you might have of players that you made a premeditated judgment towards because of one thing they did, instead of understanding where they came from, which I think is vital in not only understanding how they play, how they interact with the media, and so on and so forth. So what I'm doing with this is trying to paint the picture of how Ron Artest was displayed from a media perspective and how we should just come to our own conclusions. And understanding someone's background, I think, is key to understanding the person that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to like never judge a man's shoes unless you've walked in them. And it's interesting because you're right. A lot of these players, once they reach the celebrity status, some might think that they don't know necessarily how to act. And that's true. Maybe that does apply to some celebrities that come from rural backgrounds like Metta and Rajon. But what's interesting about that is you have no idea everything that they had to overcome, how resilient they had to be just to get a moment like this. And then once they have that moment, to actually keep that moment, right? And remain consistent and know how to handle the light instead of, how they've been, what they've been used to living with.
Right.
But it's very, very interesting. You're right. And I think it's great that we do stories like this.
Very much so. So here is even more from Ron Artest. Growing up as a kid, I remember playing I skipped one, my apologies. I remember one time my mom had to call this other guy and make sure he didn't mistake me for my older brother because they were trying to kill my older brother. My mom had to call him up and say these are two different people. Growing up as a kid, I remember playing in Far Rockaway, New York. There's only one way in, one way out. Far Rockaway is like the New Orleans of New York. It's like hardcore. If you go into their hood and you play ball and you play hard, there are repercussions. I never back down, so I play hard. My man got hit over the head with a bottle, boom, at the free throw line while he's shooting free throws. Bats and guns come out. We got to get out. The next day, we go to another hood to play ball. That's just how it was. It's just how it was with Ron Artest. So back to what he said. As a quick refresher, one more time. Here is Metta World Peace, Houston Rockets, after a rough game against the Los Angeles Lakers.
I remember when I used to play back home in the neighborhood, it was always games like that. I remember one time it was one of my friends, he was playing basketball, they was winning the game. It was so competitive, they broke a piece of leg from a table and they threw it and it went right through his heart and he died right on the court. So I'm accustomed to playing basketball really rough, you know what I mean? And I came into the league, that's how I was accustomed to playing. I'm used to fighting on the court, and that's how I grew up playing basketball.
That was Metta World Peace going over it. And as I prefaced, we had to dig. And we dug and we dug. And here's what we found. Via the New York Times in 1991, player dies in stabbing at basketball court. We'll read this together. A 19-year-old basketball player from Queens was fatally stabbed with a broken off table leg, as Ron said, today after a fight broke out during a basketball tournament. The player, his name is Lloyd Newton, was stabbed in the back with a leg from the scores table at the championship game at the YMCA-sponsored tournament at the Niagara Falls Boys and Girls Club. An argument ensued about the score, said Captain Louis Cursoni, adding that one of the teams thought they were getting gypped. A fight broke out between the players and about 40 fans in the stands. In the course of the fight, one person was stabbed in the back. Mr. Newton was taken to the Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Center where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Brian Sion, 16 of Niagara Falls, has been charged with second-degree murder. He was being held at the Niagara Falls jail. pending his arraignment in the city court today. There's a little bit more that I want to show you about Lloyd Newton. There was a terrible fight. Lloyd Newton had survived a shattered home. He had ended up with a legal guardian, a sweet woman out of the Queensbridge projects named Annie Hicks. And so he had survived the projects. So this would make Ron Artest 12 years old when he saw this. And it was just interesting to me because it's not normal's the wrong word. It's not an average day when the media meets with someone and they mention, oh yeah, and by the way, I saw a guy get murdered.
Right.
You know, so upon our research, this is what we concluded. The stories align. And this is something that he unfortunately had to witness at a very young age.
Yeah, and it goes just to show too, like there is some small, post-traumatic stress in there. The fact that he wasn't able to really differentiate how aggressive he was in a professional game and how that reminded him of, playing street ball. We played street ball and we've played, collegiate and more organized basketball, and there's a difference. There's a difference. I'm not going to bring the energy. Sure, I'm going to bring the energy that I play with in street ball to a more organized game, but I'm not going to be as. I'm going to be a little more cautious because I have a lot more to lose.
Right.
I feel like, and sometimes it's so difficult when he's undergone. I've never witnessed. I've been very lucky never to have witnessed a death like that. But the fact that he didn't suppress that, and it's something he still carries. Is very interesting, and yeah, you're right. It does give a different light to his game because he's not letting that overpower him, but more so using that to his advantage and figuring out how to move with that memory. And
was used, it seems like, as a vehicle to become a great defensive player in the association. So let us know your thoughts. YouTube.com/TYT Sports. Do you know what you could get for $4.99? Maybe one pack of Skittles. You know what's better? A lot of content. So download the TYT app, available on iOS and Android.